Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Young Pilguan from the World Peace and Unification Sanctuary. The title of today's presentation is The Bride of Christ. God created Adam by your substance, and through Adam He created Eve, and they became the ancestors of humankind. God had envisioned to spread His lineage by raising up Adam and Eve towards their perfection, marry them as couple, and become the true parents of mankind. In the family of true parents, true father is in the position as the heavenly representative, and true mother is in the position representing Eve on earth. The responsibility of true mother is to receive the heavenly lineage and multiply humankind. So true mother is not in a position of being just a simple wife. She is in the position to attend heaven as the representative of all mankind. That is why the position of true mother have to become the foundation wherein mankind can welcome and attend the substantial God. This means that through true mother, the substantial God can be victoriously settled on earth. However, in the Garden of Eden, Eve succumbed to the temptation of Satan and fell, and she, the fallen Eve, even made Adam fall also. So Adam and Eve became the fallen parents. In this way, the ancestors of humankind lost the lineage of God and received the lineage of Satan. Through this, Satan became the father of all humankind, and this is why all mankind born carrying the original sin. Since God wanted to save all humankind, He sent Jesus Christ in the position of the next Adam. Jesus Christ came as the bridegroom of the fallen humankind, carrying the sperm of God. That is why the mission of Jesus Christ is to find His bride on earth. This is the reason why the core of salvation of humankind is to find the lost Eve and recover the original family. However, Christianity could not understand the fact that the Messiah comes to find His bride. Oh, Jesus Christ is coming just to do that marriage which everyone is doing? If you say like that, you're talking maliciously against Christ. That is heretical. This is Christians' opposition. This is because Christians did not understand the principle of providence of salvation. When you talk about salvation, you don't base it on a faith that is from the old way of thinking. It is finding the cause of the fall and then reestablish it to original based on the principle. The ancestors of humankind succumbed into the temptation of Satan and caused them to fall. That made humankind carry the satanic lineage with them. This fallen humankind has to be born again through the Messiah who comes carrying the lineage of heaven. That is why Jesus Christ said to Nicodemus that he has to be born again in John 3:3. This means that salvation is changing the satanic blood lineage to heavenly lineage. The Christians call this rebirth. The purpose of the second coming of the Messiah is to raise up a God-centered family for heaven, and through the process of grafting, give birth to humankind once again. That is why Jesus Christ talked this way: My Father is God. I am the bridegroom and you are the bride. All contents are in this sentence, ladies and gentlemen. The purpose of this message is not to tell that all the Christians are the brides of Jesus Christ, but to receive Jesus Christ as their bridegroom through the bride who represents Christianity. This means that true mother who is in the position of the bride has to receive the heavenly sperm from true father who comes as Jesus Christ and then give birth to God's children. Then based on that foundation, humankind can be grafted to the lineage of God. So Jesus Christ said, the Son comes in the glory of the Father. He talked like this. Before God sent Jesus Christ, He first established the chosen people, the Israelites. We have learned through the speeches that the daughter of Zacharias was to become the bride of Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the purpose of Zacharias' daughter being the bride of Jesus Christ? Zacharias is the high priest standing as the representative of Judaism. His son, the revered John the Baptist, was the representative leader of the Israelites. This is to unite the family of Jesus Christ and the family of Zacharias through the marriage of his daughter as the bride of Jesus Christ. Then, as Zacharias' family attends Jesus' family, Judaism and the Israelites can also receive Jesus Christ as the Messiah. This means that through the bride, the Israelites, whom God had prepared, can meet Jesus Christ. However, because the family of Zachariah and the family of Maria could not fulfill their portion of responsibility, Jesus Christ, even at the age of 30, could not meet his bride. In the end, Jesus Christ has to leave his family that did not fulfill their responsibility and went to live in the wilderness to start a new course of the providence. In the wilderness, Jesus Christ proclaimed to Israelites that now is the time when the Messiah comes and that the Messiah has already come. However, Judaism and the Israelites could not recognize Jesus Christ as the Messiah. Instead, he is just a poor carpenter's son. They assaulted Jesus like this, like a fake prophet. In the end, Jesus Christ has to receive the rejection of Judaism and the Israelites and to go no other way except the way of the cross. The crucifixion of Jesus Christ resulted to opening the way for the spiritual salvation of humankind and the promise that he will come back. Because of this, after the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, Christianity had been hoping for the marriage supper of the Lamb. Christianity is the religion in the position of the bride of Christ. It is an altar where the Lord of the Second Advent meets his bride. Reverend Sun Myung Moon comes in the capacity of the third Adam, the bridegroom, the true father, and the Messiah. As the Messiah, the first mission of the Reverend Sun Myung Moon is to find his bride. Just as Jesus Christ had to find his bride from among the Jews, the Lord of the Second Advent has to find his bride from among the Christians. However, those who are in the position of in charge of the mission of the John the Baptist could not do their portion of responsibility, and also because of Christianity, who are ignorant about the providence of salvation, could not greet but persecuted second coming of Jesus Christ. Despite of that, Reverend Sun Myung Moon has the will to fulfill the will of God without fail, so he had to find absolutely the bride carrying big responsibility. Reverend Moon had to undergo unimaginable misery and difficulties in finding the bride. The first woman to receive the mission of the bride of Christ is Mrs. Son Gil Che. Miss Son Gil Che is born from a very admirable family, a daughter of very famous Christian family. She has such a deep faith that she even went to jail because she didn't bow to the Shinto. Reverend Moon asked her many times if she can keep her faith and follow to the end before they got married. Miss Che promised that she can keep her faith and follow to the end whatever difficulties she may encounter. That is why Reverend Moon claimed her as his bride and they were married together. However, Reverend Moon received a mandate from God to leave his family and go to Pyongyang, North Korea. In the north, he received all kinds of persecution and hardships from the communists that you cannot even express it through words. After being victorious over all these hardships in the North Korea, he went back to the south. While Reverend Moon was staying at his cardboard and mud house in Bumnikol, Busan, Mrs. Choi came looking for him. When she saw the shabby state of Reverend Moon, she became extremely disappointed and went against the providence. It was great when she promised that she can be faithful and can follow to the end. Nevertheless, she resolved to separate from her husband. Reverend Moon persuaded Mrs. Che to endure for 3 more years, but she rejected it and ended their marriage. The main reason for her decision were the instigations from Reverend Moon's in-laws, or Christian family that belongs to a Christian church. If Mrs. Son Gil Che had kept her promise to absolutely believe and follow her husband, The opposition coming from Christianity would have had gradually disappeared. A road of unity with the Christians would have had opened. But Mrs. Songil-che had opposed the providential course of her husband and demanded separation from him. So Christianity treated Reverend Sun Myung-moon as a disgraceful leader and found himself in a persecuted state. The second person chosen as the bride of Christ is Miss Myung-hae Kim. Miss Kim is known as an adopted daughter of Underwood missionary prophet. In 1954, she entered Yonsei University as a student. Miss Kim was in a position of Maria in the New Testament. Maria, together with his son Jesus Christ, went to Egypt as a refugee to escape from the persecution of Herod. Miss Kim too had to go to Japan while she is pregnant with his son by riding an illegal boat. Japan had considered her visit as illegal, so in Nagasaki, Omuri, she stayed in a camp of immigration, then they sent her back to Korea forcefully. Miss Kim also could not fulfill her mission, so she could not stand in the position of true mother. The third person chosen to become the bride of Christ is Miss Hak Jahan. She is a daughter of Miss Sun A Hong, who is a staff of a religious group that receives revelations. Mrs. Hong was not tied up with the claims of established religious groups, but rather followed the truth and the revelation she is inspired of. Both the mother and grandmother of Mrs. Han had a faith that was inclined to wait devotedly for the Lord of the Second Advent. Even Christians opposed Reverend Moon. At that time, they testified Reverend Moon as the Messiah. Mrs. Hong, who recognized that they have to live entirely a pure life while waiting for the Lord of the Second Advent, had raised up her daughter under an extreme devotion. The church that was waiting for the Lord of the Second Advent was called Crying Church or Lamenting Church. This church receives revelations. This church gave Miss Hak Jahan a very surprising blessing, the Heavenly Bride. True Father taught Miss Hak Jahan the mission of true parents. Miss Hak Jahan promised in front of True Father that she will believe and submit herself until the end. So Reverend Sun Myung-moon chose Miss Han as his bride and officiated marriage supper of the Lamb. After raising up Mrs. Hak Jahan to become the true mother, she gave birth to 14 true children. At that time, there were a lot of spiritual groups and spiritual mediums surrounding True Father who testifies to him as the Lord of the Second Advent. There were a lot of spiritual works, but the biggest is in the Chongpyong province. It is the providence conducted by Hongjinim and Demonim who are in the spirit world. It had conducted ceremonies on spiriting from the evil spirits, liberation of ancestors, and also the blessing of ancestors. Members of Unification Church from around the world eagerly came to Chongpyong to receive these spiritual works. In this way, Chongpyong had developed tremendously. However, besides these exorbitant spiritual works, there was a bigger work of evil that was breeding up. Inside these spiritual works, Mother Hak Jahan had indulged herself into spiritual communion arrogantly. Particularly, the spiritual medium Mrs. Hyo Nam Kim, who went beyond sweet words, became too much involved in the present situation of the spiritual that resulted to her far distant speeches. Satan was the one who tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden. Mother had been tempted even in the time of the Lord of the Second Advent. Eve in the Garden of Eden fell at the top level of the growth stage. Similarly, Mother Han also after the marriage ceremony of the growth stage, just before the marriage ceremony on the completed stage, had succumbed to Satan's temptations. Mother Han could not overcome her last test, received the will of Satan, and left her proper position. The last portion of responsibility Mother Han had left unfulfilled. Absolutely, this should not have happened. True Father was extremely disappointed. So True Father postponed the scheduled marriage ceremony on the completion level to Foundation Day. However, even after this postponement, Mrs. Han did not repent. She continued to oppose True Father and lost faith in him. Finally, before the Foundation Day, True Father ascended to the spirit world. He could not officiate the marriage ceremony on the completion stage. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of people whose faith is centered on those who are attached to the spiritual realm rather than having faith in the words of God. Spiritual mediums boast that their spiritual power is the highest faith and want to stand higher than anyone else. But faith that depends on strange works and miracles is not a true faith. The development of providence goes through the step-by-step process according to the principle, not by the spiritual power. Those people who are deceived by spiritual power will surely be slipped down. Mrs. Han was able to meet the Lord of the Second Advent through the church's inspiration from spirit world, and it even raised her up to the position of true mother. But she succumbed to Satan's temptation, betrayed the words of true father, and left her position by her own volition. After that, she proclaimed herself as God, claimed that she is the only begotten daughter who has pure lineage and does not have original sin, claimed that true father has a fallen lineage and had committed infidelity. She also claimed that because she accepted marriage with true father's original sin was cleansed and could become the true parents. As she claimed all these things, she is opposing directly the restoration providence that true father had undertaken. She also had driven away the lineage of true father, and the three kingship in change is based on Buddhist law. She rejected the lineage of true father and wanted to erase it forever. While the heir and successor of true father, Reverend Hyungjin Sian Moon, declared that Mrs. Han had fallen in heavenly level and became the prostitute of Babylon. Church members who are drunk in false holy wine are saying that Mrs. Han, who had become a perfected Eve and become one with true father, but second king is judging her as fallen woman, so the second king is unprincipled and unfilial. The last candidate for the bride of Christ chosen through the inheritor and successor Reverend Hyungjin Senmoon was Mrs. Hyun Sil Kang. Mrs. Kang had graduated from a theology school. While she was witnessing as a Christian missionary, she met Reverend San Myung Moon. He was the first disciple of Reverend Moon. She has been living attending the Messiah and sacrificed herself for him. In front of true father, she is a victorious person in terms of absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience. Although she is persecuted and received all kinds of insult from the world, she never wavered in her faith. She has attended true father as the Lord of the Second Advent until the foundation for the world's salvation has been accomplished. She is a person who came to pioneer the path of the bride. She is a person whose hard work and passion were so pure nobody can doubt it. She is also the living testimony of the history of the Unification Church. True Father said Mrs. Hyun Sil Kang is the mother of Unification Church. In 2016, Mrs. Hyun Sil Kang left Mrs. Hak Jahan, the betrayer, and went to find the representative and successor, Reverend Hyungjin Sian Moon. She said she went to find and follow the lineage of true father in the wilderness. She said she came to find the heavenly lineage with the same heart as she had when she met true father at the Bomnigol. The successor inheritor, Reverend Hyungjin Sian Moon, with the guidance of the Holy Spirit, had chosen Mrs. Hyun Sil Kang in his capacity as the inheritor to fill up the vacant position of true mother. Finally, on September 23, 2017, the representative Hyungjin Sian Moon dedicated the completion level blessing ceremony to true parents of heaven and earth. Furthermore, Mrs. Hyun Sil Kang is a perfected Eve and also a perfected true mother. Even if the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification had fallen into Satan's dominion because of Mrs. Han's betrayal, by dedicating the completed blessing, ceremony for the true parents in the wilderness, the providence of God has been transferred and continued and can bear fruits through the sanctuary church. Now the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, who has betrayed true father and moved to create the only begotten daughter church, is no longer in the position where God can stay. Even though true father in his whole life had been chased away by first Christianity, who considered him heretic, he did not condemn the ignorance of the Christians. Instead, he was waiting until the end that Christianity can recognize the providence of God and welcome the Lord of the Second Advent. Even if Christianity has thrown away true father, he continued to love them until the end. Now the providence of God is to find the Christians through the inheritor and successor. Finally, Christianity, who was prepared as a church standing in the position of the bride of Christ, can now meet the Lord of the Second Advent, who come as the bridegroom. In the end, through the success of the bride representing of all of humankind, Christianity has now the chance to meet the Lord of the Second Advent. Also, through the victory of the Cain and Abel in the wilderness, the road is widely open to meet the Savior, the Messiah. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. This is Ayon Moon, translator and edited by Koori.